and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is items of interest, recognition, and inquiry. Does the Board of Education members have anything tonight?
I do.
Nope.
First of all, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for hopefully making 21-22 school year a good, positive school year. The other thing I wanted to mention, if any of you were up in Marine City over the weekend for the Battle of the Bands, I would like to give a big thank you to Dave Vanbach, who organized Battle of the Bands, and for all of his helpers, Jeff Bohm, the Marine City Lions Club, and Terry Philo, the people from St. Clair, Marine City, and Algonac Boosters. Marine City won the Battle of the Bands for both nights and raised over $3,800 for the Booster Club for Marine City. St. Clair, over $1,200, and Algonac, $1,500. So just a big shout out. It was great to see the communities come together, be together, and just thank you for doing that. So, and good luck to the sports teams this week, football.
And I have one. I'd like to thank Amy Murphy, who served here for 8.5 years and has stepped down to pursue other things. So thanks for her service.
I just real quick just kind of speak to the community. I know there's a lot of concern right now with what we see happening in the schools down south, and there's a lot of opinions about masking and not masking, and vaccinating and not vaccinating, and I'm just I guess I would encourage everybody to do their best to remember, do what's best to try to keep our kids in school. We had a great summer, normal, and it felt great, and it feels that way right now. But there is concern that what happened last year could sneak its way back in. So I'm just hopeful that we will, as we face challenges that come our way, that we'll make good decisions together as a community, and everybody maybe do their part to try to keep kids in school as normal and as long as we can.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Suzanne?
Yes, I'd like to thank Pat Bebuck, Vice President of the Board, Pat Bebuck, for weeding and providing flowers to the central office entrance. It really is the little things that make a huge difference. She donated the time and the mulch and the flowers, and so when we walk in each day, it really, really does look nice and makes us all smile. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The other is our stadium. If you've taken a peek back towards the stadium, we've had a lot of work done back there, and we're preparing for the first football game, which is this Friday. It will be our opening game, Marine City versus St. Clair, and the JV kickoff is at 3:30. So we're hoping everyone in the community can join us for that event. So thank you.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. A motion is needed for the approval of minutes from the regular Board of Education meeting on July 26th. The approval of the payment of bills, schedule of investments, and appointment of new teachers.
So moved.
Support.
Any comments or questions? Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Okay, the next item on our agenda is our discussion item. Oh, excuse me, I missed one. Our next item on our agenda is the recognition of persons wishing to address the board. So I just want to remind everybody that if you wanted to speak to the board tonight, you needed to fill out a green card. If you haven't done so, you need to do so now, because if you don't, you can't just get up and start yelling in the middle of the meeting. Thank you. So that being said, we do not respond back to your comments at this time, but we will make a note of your comments, and Mrs. Sibula will get back to you, in the next few days. So the first green card I have this evening is Kim VanBack. Oh, excuse me, and one more thing. Since we have so many green cards, we're going to set our timer to limit the comments for 5 minutes, which is our board policy. So, please,
Sure.
Go ahead. Thank you.
I need to say my name and address or something?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Kim Vanbach, 1630 South Riverside, St. Clair. First of all, I'd like to say that thank you for all that you do. I know it's not easy to do this at this time, in this climate, I should say. But I know that you guys are elected to make the best choices for our children. The CDC and the health department are not elected to make the best choices for our children. So just keep that in mind as we're in this new climate of what's looming, possibly could, restrict us with mandates and whatnot. And I just would like to state that we just want to get the kids back in school full time, and I know that's what everybody wants. And if we could just keep in mind that the kids are suffering, they want to get back, and moving forward, we need to keep that in mind and hope that we don't further have restrictions and mandates as far as like quarantining and vaccine restrict mandates and things like that. So if you just keep that in mind as we move forward in these looming times. Thank you.
Thank you. Dawn Regan. So, pass that on and pass it back.
Hello, thank you for letting me speak. Dawn Regan, 2726 Allington, St. Clair, Michigan. I'm just here tonight because I gave her a picture to show you of what happened to my son last year when he wore a mask. And after several pediatrician visits, antibiotic creams that burned the rash more, and a dermatology visit, he did finally get a mask exemption and then had to wear a face shield for the rest of the year. I'm just going to reiterate to you that I elected you to make decisions for my children when they are in your care. And we have 4 kids in the school district, and they want to go to school. They want to be with their friends, and they want to not have to wear a mask. It should be parents' choice. If they want to send their children to school with a mask, that's fine. I'll teach my kids not to make any judgment against those children that choose to wear a mask. But it is not right or fair to mask everyone. We need to keep that in consideration, please, because my kids want to be in school. But again, I have 4 children in the district, and I will have to pull them if you mandate masks again, because I can't do that to my kids again this year. I can't go through that with them. He was very, very sick, and he's here today with me because he knows that I was nervous to come up here, but I'm doing it for Max and for our other kids that are in your school district. It's a great district. Please do the right thing. Please. I know they're offering money and things like that, grants. We're here to support you guys, but you need to listen to us too, because these are our kids, and we're giving them to you for 6-7 hours a day. Please do the right thing. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly VanSingle.
Hi, Kelly VanSingle, 5350 Vine. I have 2 students at St. Clair High and 2 students at St. Clair Middle School, and I asked to speak tonight because I have some concerns about certain employees in the school. Families leave our children in your care in hopes they go to school, sports, extracurricular activities, and we trust the staff and employees to educate and teach them. However, recent events have come to my attention. I can no longer just sit by and not discuss it. Certain staff members have been instilling their own personal beliefs and morals on our children. It became very visible during this past election and during this pandemic. I had my children come home numerous times discussing the things that teachers had discussed with them throughout the day. And I didn't say anything at the time, I let it go, but I'm no longer able to do that. It should not be the job of the staff. They should be staying neutral and teaching both sides of all issues, no matter what the debate is. No child should or needs to know a teacher or staff's personal, religious, or moral beliefs, and that part of the education should be coming from the child's family unit. Just recently, an event happened in which a staff member had told a group of students that if they were not vaccinated, they will be having to quarantine and not be able to watch class instruction during the day, and therefore have to figure out a way to stay up on their work during quarantine. Now, this was hearsay, hence I'm not going to say the staff member. This could possibly be a rumor. However, if this is true, this does upset me very much that the staff member told students this before parents were even informed of this issue, therefore causing a lot of fear and anxiety in a group of the student population. So again, this may have been a rumor, but if it is true and talk has begun, I beg of you for this not to happen, where students would have to quarantine if they were not vaccinated, and students that are vaccinated would be able to continue in school. My daughter was so scared after hearing this, she begged me to be vaccinated, not because of the virus in any way, but because she does not want to miss school and her education to suffer. And I guess that just broke my heart. It wasn't about the virus. It was about the fear and everything going around. And it is rumors, I'm sure, part of it, one child talks to another child. But the point is, our children are being scared into getting vaccinated, and it is sad. And I believe that vaccinations have always been a family's choice. I'm almost positive, I did not fact check this today, but I believe there's a waiver that if you didn't want your child vaccinated, you signed the waiver and they were still able to be educated. So I guess I'm wondering, what is the difference now? What is quarantining of some students and not others doing, except for segregating and pinning them against each other? And I don't see the benefit of it. It's also a violation of, I believe, my child's rights, that just because they didn't get vaccinated and others did, they don't receive the education that, in my opinion, they deserve. So I beg of you to consider this when thinking about how you will quarantine students this year, especially since I did go over and look at the CDC website today, and it said a vaccinated person can still contract the coronavirus, and a vaccinated person can still spread the virus. So if students that are vaccinated can still contract the virus and still transfer it, why should they be exempt from quarantine? I just feel that we need to stick together, not separate and segregate the students. I also have concerns about testing healthy children for the virus, and I beg of you not to do weekly testing on sports players this year. Testing healthy children in a non-medical setting, to me, is a waste of time and money that can be spent elsewhere. And finally, please unmask our children. I have seen firsthand just how dirty these masks are on kids, and I saw numerous masks just never being washed on students. And I, as a parent, have been guilty of it myself, not coming home and washing those masks every day. So I just ask that you let them breathe in healthy air and let us see their smiles. So thank you for taking the time to listen to me, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Aaron Vanbach, sorry. Hi.
Good evening, Aaron Vanbach, 1320 South Riverside. Everyone so far, very excellent. I don't really have too much more to add. A lot of what I wanted to say was already said. But to me, the biggest thing is, all of our children are falling behind in their education with the pandemic and everything that's been going on. I believe we're all probably here for the same reason. We need our children back in school, without masks, being with their friends, being able to see their teachers, learn from their teachers, getting the most from, their educational experience, in our great district here. So, not to repeat what everybody else said, just, please remember that, we need our children in school to get their education for their future. So, thank you.
Thank you. Caroline Martin.
Hi, Caroline Martin, 320 South Kearney. A lot of my issues were already addressed. My number one issue, outside of everything else that was already discussed, would be I've spoken with a couple of different people inside of our district. My main concern was I feel like our kids have been at a lack of education no matter how hard people are trying to educate them. I mean, there's just been a loss, like, across the board, and we're all doing the best as parents and staff, the district, the students, but there has been some sort of loss. My fear moving forward is I was told that my main concern was not in elementary, it was in my middle schooler and my high schooler. If they are forced to quarantine, how they would be receiving education, because they're not part of the virtual academy that is offered. We are in-person learning, and there will be zero virtual learning. So the kids we have the capabilities, we have the access. I don't understand why there couldn't be a live stream where the kid logs in and they get to watch the lesson plan, and then they get to do the assignment in the event that they're quarantined. Because if a child has to quarantine for 10 days, at least half, if not more of that, is going to be missed school days. And if that happens more than one time throughout the year, that's a lot of lost education that a student would, one, have to just try and do on their own, or two, they would try and catch up when they return. I know when my kid has missed a day or two, whether that's because they were ill or whether it's been because of a sport, it's virtually impossible to catch up. It's extremely difficult. It takes a lot of parents being on top of the child if they're not self-motivated, let's say. And if each teacher can do things, I was told that teachers can handle it however they want. One can upload Google Classroom, one can hand out paper assignments, one can email. I don't know how that would work across. How is a young child supposed to balance and understand and keep that organized on how to do all of those assignments during that time? I would like clear expectations, like in a shutdown, or not shutdown, sorry, my bad. In a case of a quarantine, this is our protocol, this is what our teachers have to do, and it gives guidance and guidelines and expectations so parents and students and staff can all be on the same page of what to expect if their child is forced to be at home. Now, bringing in being forced to be at home, with being quarantined and not quarantined, vaccinated, unvaccinated, to reiterate, I had also read the same thing saying that a vaccinated person can still spread the virus, showing less symptoms or being asymptomatic. So if a child can still spread it to other children, shouldn't anybody who has been in contact with that person have to quarantine, not just specific people, would be my other concern. And I think everybody else has already addressed other things for me. Thank you.
Jill Fuston. Say that
right. Sorry, I'm short. My name is Jill Fuston. I live at 4056 Scott B. Drive. 4 kids in the district. I have custody of my grandson, so 3 and my grandson. I'm also a mental health nurse practitioner, so I'm going to come from a different angle on this. And just so you know, I take it very personally because my patients are everything to me. So, COVID, 42 million kids were positive, 0.008 died. 480 died from the flu in 2018 and 2019, which basically in 1 year, we had more kids die from the flu than what died from COVID in a year and a half. And we didn't ask kids to wear masks, and honestly, I'm not for or against masks. My 6-year-old grandson comes home with his mask. It's disgusting. It's got brown all over it. It's wet. It's gross, and it doesn't work. I'm a nurse practitioner. It doesn't work. Unless you're giving these kids an N95 mask, fitting them separately, giving them a new mask every time it gets infected, they're not touching it. They're using proper protocol. This isn't helping. It's just putting more fear among the kids. Let's talk about suicide rates. 10 to 24 years of age in the last decade, they're up 57%. 2019, alone, almost 9% of our 9th to 12th grade kids have made at least one suicide attempt in the last 12 months. Root cause, they give lost hope, despair, dim future, trauma, fear of politics. We're fighting over vaccinations. They're hearing about it at home, at school, on the news. They can't get away from it. One county, and it's so hard to get statistics because there's so many, but I'm just going to give one county in South Carolina that was easy to come across. They said 2019, 123 kids committed suicide. 123. This is just one county. The youngest person to call, and I'm sorry if I get upset, but this is my life, and I take every patient to heart. In 2019, the youngest kid to call was 11. Last year it was 7. I have kids, I see 150 patients a week, roughly. I have kids that, let me give you the best way to do it is just give you examples. A safety plan. When someone wants to kill themselves or someone else, I have to make a safety plan. Before COVID, I was making 1 to 2 a week. Now I'm making 1 to 2 a day. Before COVID, I was sending 2 to 3 patients a month to the hospital. I'm sending 2 to 3 patients a week. Before COVID, it was bad. Now it's worse. I used to never give out my cell phone. I give out my cell phone to parents because on Friday they're crying so hard. 7-year-olds are putting bags over their heads. They don't know what to do. And they're calling me, how do I keep my kids safe till Monday? And I don't know. So the only thing I can say is call me and I'll help. I'll try. I'll figure it out. We'll work together. This is my life every day. Let's move on. Greenville, another county, suicide rates during COVID up 800%. We're talking about Boston Hospital, 47% increase just from July to October 2020 from the previous year of kids hospitalized with suicide attempts or suicidal ideations, which are thoughts of suicide. So I'm going to tell you from a whole nother perspective, we're missing something big here. And, and the risk to our kids, and to fight over masks when I could care less. My kids, you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If it makes you feel better, wear it. I don't care, because it doesn't really help you, but if it makes you feel better, go ahead. It's not doing anything, well, sure. Vaccinated, I'm all for vaccinations. I think they're, right now, they're the best thing we have. But I'm not going to argue with some person who doesn't, and I don't think we should be pumping vaccinations into kids until we know exactly what all the side effects are. We just don't know now. That's my opinion. I don't care what everybody else does. Everybody has to do their own thing. I'm worried about what our teachers say in classes, because it's like a divorced family with parents bickering. We really need to be thinking about what our teachers are saying to our kids. Because if your kids know who they voted for president, if they think that the vaccination is good or bad, if they have a preference to masks or not, we're doing something wrong in our schools. Our teachers need to be educating our kids. They need to be in school. We don't take kids out for flu. We don't quarantine them when they're exposed to someone in flu. This is not, at this point, hurting our kids any more than flu. Why are we treating it different? Why are we putting trauma on our kids and making them fearful of life, of living? I have a 6-year-old grandson. I have him because he had trauma in his life. 2.5 years I've had him. I finally got him okay. Last year with COVID, now every week he asked me, yeah, if you die, could I have your house? Will I have a place to stay? Well, why do you think I would die? Well, COVID. So I'm not saying his situation's different, but this is not just him. Kids are afraid of dying, their parents dying. The worst thing we can do to children is make them feel unsafe. At 7 years old, I'm sorry, but you have a right to be happy, healthy, and not thinking about all this crud that we are dealing with. We should be going to school. They should be having fun and laughing. All this other stuff should not even matter. It really should not even matter. When 9% of our kids are attempting suicide, why are we having this conversation about masks? I mean, I'm sorry, but it's just, I'm amazed that nobody cares about mental health, and we're putting so much effort into these other things that don't matter. Until the day I die, I'm gonna fight for every single kid and every single information I have to be okay, because that's what's important. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Sean Treadaway.
Sean Treadaway, 1520 Pug Road, St. Clair. Madam President, members of the board, Ms. Ibola, thank you. Open and honest communication, collaborative, partnership, working together, teamwork, togetherness, common goal, equal, helpful, responsiveness. These are very powerful words that when used can provide a healthy relationship between two parties, whether it be a work environment, life at home, or in this case, students, parents, guardians, and a school board. As you took your oath, you made a promise to not only provide a positive education for our children, but you also promised to work together with all of the parents in the community that you represent. All of you but one set up on the bully pulpit as elected officials. With that comes the duty to not only listen to the parents in the community, but also to include them in the decision process that will affect our children and the schools that they attend. We've all lived a very strange and trying 16 or so months. This has been a challenge for some and a battle for others. Each and every one of us has dealt with this in our own way. Positive for some and rather negative for others. As we waged through this, we had to work together. As some parents struggled to make life work, others took it in stride. I, as the father of 3 wonderful daughters, found myself wondering we might just get back to normal. We saw restrictions, closures, remote learning, in-school learning, masks, social distancing. We took most of this in stride because we had little other choices, hoping that we could take at least a few positive lessons from all of it. During this time, you too had challenges, but unlike us, you volunteered for those challenges. You had to conduct meetings from remote locations, and communication more than likely was via cell phone and email. As federal, state, local officials fought for what they thought was right for us, we sat by hoping that the right decisions would be made. Unfortunately, our children suffered. No one can possibly describe last school year as overly successful. No one can possibly say that our children received a normal quality education last year. As our teachers did their best to educate our children in this environment, parents did their best to make this new life work. My wife and daughters and I definitely had our ups and downs. We did our best to make the virtual learning option work. We stayed with virtual for the entire year, knowing that the decisions would not come in a timely manner from this board. We watched and waited as other districts got out in front of these decisions and kept their community informed at the earliest possible time. As parents, we talked to each other, and the topic was almost always, gee, I wonder when the superintendent and the board are going to let us know what's going on. Another comment that was commonly said was, wow, did you see that Marysville, Port Huron, Algonac, Richmond, Anchor Bay, just to name a few, already have a plan in place. Even our snow day announcements seem to come last. Have you ever noticed? Reactive, last to the table, uninformed, behind the curve, late to the party. Keeping students, parents, teachers, and the community informed in a timely manner is not only your responsibility, but is also your duty. Again, I remind you that you volunteered for this position. Making decisions that affect all of us is probably not the easiest task, but again, you volunteered. We not only expect your A game, we demand it. We can no longer accept lackluster performance when it comes to the education of our children and the policies that affect them. Being second to last when it comes to making the tough calls can no longer be accepted. You have a duty to our students and your employees. As a parent, I often wonder how our teachers feel. They wait in the wings just like the rest of us. I left a 14-year career with my last employer due to horrible communication and leadership. I believe that some of you are former educators. Do you think that you are providing the students, parents, teachers, and the community with open and honest communication in a timely manner? We won't know your answer to that important question due to the fact that your board policy is to not engage with us in a public forum, as we have heard directly from your board president at every meeting. It is against our board policy to answer your questions or to comment directly to you. To me, one of the most bothersome examples of this was when the young ladies from the St. Clair High School tennis team poured their hearts out to this body, and not one of you had the courage to even acknowledge them. A little bit of empathy would have gone a long way. At least they were able to see some body language from a few of you. While some attended the meeting via Zoom, and at least one remained behind a mask. You were able to sit behind your desk while we approach an unguarded microphone to plead with you for any type of communication. As a large group of concerned parents has formed, we have discussed that countless emails, phone calls, voicemails, and public comments like this seem to fall on deaf ears. A lack of or slow communication chain can be far worse than any unpopular position or decision. When the superintendent and school board begins to receive Freedom of Information Act requests from the citizens, flags should probably start to fly.
Mr. Treadway, excuse me, 5 minutes are up. Can you please wrap it up? Thank you. Jessica Holcomb.
Hi, I just kind of want to follow up with what he was saying, and I want to let you guys know that is absolutely unacceptable. When we parents message you guys, email you, and you don't respond to our emails, it is absolutely unacceptable, and that it's just absolutely unacceptable.
Tiana Livingston.
Good afternoon, Tiana Livingston. I was just coming to ask a question for factual information. I don't know if it has to be FOIA'd or perhaps you guys can look into it and let me know. My question is from July 1st of this year, when the mask mandate ended, until now, till our school restarts, how many COVID cases did you have with our kids? How many was there transmitted back and forth? Because that's when this Delta variant's going on and all this stuff, and we gotta all be scared, right? We know that we've been eating at restaurants and doing all that, but now those kids are coming back to school and they wanna talking all about the masks and all that. And I gotta disagree with a couple of people here. Superintendent said, well, you called me right back. I come in here first time I've ever talked. I felt like you guys listened. I don't wanna mispronounce your names, but I watched Vice President look. I watched Madam President look. I watched you look. The other two I don't really remember because I was going this straight head. I apologize. But I felt you listened to me and you responded quickly. Okay? I'm not here to bash anybody, right? I think most people in this room, they just want their kids safe. They want to be heard. They want to know that you know, that they know you know you're going to do something, right? Mr. Distillerath, I think it is, am I pronouncing that correctly? You said in the beginning that you hope we all work together, we all do our part. I think what they're all asking is for you to do your part, right? Do your part, and it's the sense that the St. Clair County Health Department, Dr. Annette, whatever her last name is, doesn't make the decisions for everybody here, right? I could play a clip of, and I'm sure it's probably taken out of context. I didn't watch the whole thing. But when I hear that doctor state that constitutional rights aren't the argument here, her goal is to satisfy and stop a pandemic. Wrong. That is wrong, sir, and I hope you understand this. Why do I say that? I wasn't going to do all this, so I apologize. I just want to know how many COVID cases you had, right? So we can say something when you guys try to mask mandate her. So you have the information and armor you need to tell her, see you later, have a good day, right? But I have to address it because now it's bothering me. So when we're going to do our part, constitutional rights always matter. You hear and I don't want to say the left, but pro-maskers will tell you, oh, with great freedom comes great responsibility. With freedom comes responsibility. That's why we have to make people wear masks, because that's our responsibility. Wrong. With freedom does come great responsibility. That responsibility is to protect freedom at every level possible. That is our responsibility for freedom, right? We're not going to say, well, right, I'm sorry, ma'am. I know you want to wear your mask, you don't want to wear your mask, but you have a responsibility to wear your mask, ma'am, because that freedom comes at a cost. Imagine if our forefathers took safety and protection over fear of dying. Where would we be? Where would we be? And now we're sitting there telling people your constitutional rights don't matter. They don't matter? Are you serious? That is appalling, and it's insulting, and it flies in the face of the Constitution, common sense, and just everything we stand for. So please, when you talk to that lady and she comes and tells you, well, we want you to lock down your school and mandate and shut it down and make the kids wear masks, let her know how many cases you had since they haven't worn masks. Let her know how important constitutional rights really do matter, okay? Because no decision can be made if it's not based in the law, right? I'm a lawyer. I'll tell you that all day. She can sit there and say whatever she wants, but I guarantee you, constitutional rights matter. They do not stop for a pandemic. They don't end. They don't end. If you want to say that we're going to follow the science, I hate this virtual signaling garbage, right? Follow the science. Do me a favor. You guys do your part. Follow the science. This lady just got up. I think everybody here got up and already said, the flu is more dangerous to our children. Follow the science. Follow it. That's all we're asking you to do. So, Mr. Distiller, I'll do my part. You do yours. Thank you very much.
Lindsay Chap.
Hi everybody, Lindsay Chap. I live at 1379 South River Point Lane, and I have 3 kiddos at Gearing. I wanted to first say thank you for offering the summer school program this year. All 3 were involved at Gearing, and they loved it, and I appreciated the extra support because they really did need it. We missed out a lot last year, so I thank you for that. And I wanted to also thank you for letting masks be optional during that time. I can count on my hand all summer how many kids I saw coming in and out with masks. And so it was delightful to see that everybody had the choice, and I think the choice kind of spoke for itself. So that was great to see the teachers and the kids and their smiling faces. I do want to highlight the recent health department's recommendations and their public health order that they just brought out, and kind of the hypocrisy and what we need to think about with that. As one of you had mentioned, summer's been so fun, right? We've had concerts, we've had parties, our kids are out playing, we had summer school. Like, I'm wondering, did the health department ever think to ask you guys about, were kids sick? Who's getting vaccinated? We had to quarantine. We didn't have any of those restrictions. So my question is, why now? We had a great summer. Let's keep it moving, right? Let's not go gloom and doom again or try to control us that way. So I would like to see those questions asked of the health department of why all of a sudden, the sudden outcry when they had no problems whole summer since school's been out. And again, as people try to say children are vulnerable, clearly look at the statistics, and they are not the vulnerable population. So we should not be masking them. It's not going to help them to be quarantined, and it's going to be such a mess to have these little elementary students who, at this point, again, can't be vaccinated, being quarantined, pulled out of school. How are they going to keep up? So that's really what I'm looking at is the education, and again, we have to keep this moving and put our kids' health first, and really look at the stats of that our kids aren't vulnerable, and we just need to move on. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Jeremiah Becker.
Good evening, Jeremiah Becker. I'm at 3241 Mayor Road. I have one child in middle school at St. Clair Middle School and one at the high school. Much of what was said already, I agree with wholly. I think what's cloudy at this point is really understanding where the board is really being held to some very just not nonsense coming from our health department. I mean, really, you're hearing it from the crowd here that it makes no sense what we just saw from them with regard to this public health order, with regard to going back into masking or close contact quarantining for something that these children stand almost no chance of being affected by. It's crazy. So what we're looking for is either really good clarification to why you can't do anything about it, why you can't push back against the board, or getting creative like I think you're seeing from the parents now. There's a lot of creativity going on in the background about how we're going to navigate if all the little levers are pulled again that they were last year. And at this point, it looks like that's what's happening. We have nothing to believe that the next step won't be mandating masking, that the next step won't be mandated testing that they're going to tell you have to do to our kids. And given Biden's choice today to tell all the companies they need to mandate vaccinations, now that Pfizer has gone through some great process to get an FDA approval, how's that not going to affect our kids at some point here? So we're really, really looking for the board to start getting creative, getting out in front of some of these comments that are coming at us. We know it's going to become a legal issue at some point. We'd like to hear some transparency on how the board can operate, what they need to see from us as parents in order to keep what we hold as normal schooling going on without having to mandate things on our children, especially regarding their health. We all deserve to have the choice of how our kids' health is handled, and we deserve the right to have them educated normally, face to face. The mental health comment was hard to listen to. That's the thing that's being squashed, that's being silenced in the background. That's going on, and we're worried about kids in a virus they have 99% chance of surviving, yet we're going to let all these deaths happen and suicide rates go up and anxiety and depression happen. I don't think we're helping our kids by allowing these mandates into our schools. Close contact quarantine only will exemplify that mental issue. I had the benefit of sitting in my house while my kids were close contact quarantine. It doesn't go well. And I have pretty well-adjusted kids. The education was subpar. Their attitudes were in the ditch because they're not near their friends anymore. Or they start taking on a whole nother mentality that just isn't your kid. We have to avoid that. We really do. Healthy kids being quarantined is absolutely insane for something that has no way of killing them. So we're looking to support you in being creative and pushing back against nonsense coming from our government above us, apparently. And we'll back you on if you're going to support us. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I want to thank everybody that spoke in front of the board tonight. I know it's not an easy thing to do, and we appreciate you being here and expressing your concerns, and it does not fall on deaf ears. So thank you very much. Okay, our next item on the agenda is the discussion items, our Bond 2020 project update.
Good evening, everyone. So as you can see in the back, we've got substantially complete on our stadium project, and in all of this, as everything is happening, we find that to be a very positive thing, and we're glad to be there. The asphalt is in. They are working to get the concrete collars in, so we do ask that, I know everyone wants to see it, but just give us that opening day before you go back there. We are working through some things. Supply chain is dealing with a lot of things, so the lights going back on the access road aren't going to be there Friday, but we will have some temporary light towers in. The road will be accessible and be able to be used for that opening game. We have distributed to the administration an updated logistics plan for the project here. As always, our approach was to get the back complete before we worked toward any of the work here. So now we're at a point where we will begin the phase of the project that is the Innovation Center and the Early Childhood Center. So those two building pads, we call those, will begin on August 30th. So you'll see some temporary fencing going up. I hope we don't disrupt too much the flowers that you planted, but some may be sacrificed to the progress of adding on to the building. So for this building in particular, that work will shift now onto the building. We will be taking the entrance to transportation. That will be the next major thing that we shut down. And then we've got a whole bunch of pipe to go on the ground for underground detention, and you're going to see a lot of dirt happening. And so that's kind of our next steps here. So at this point, are there any questions about this site and where we're at schedule-wise for the board?
Jerry, I was just wondering if you could touch on the weeks that you're seeing as far as delays as we move through these projects.
So as you saw this summer, we had, in the back, we had 28 days, I think, of 34 days of rain. So even with perfect circumstances, we had some weather to deal with. When we're looking at the supply chain, things like structural steel, which we would normally get in 8 to 10 weeks, we're hearing upwards of 40 to 52 week lead time for some of the materials. So a lot of this has to do with the current situation of what's going on. A lot of it has to do with some demand in other markets that are taking resources from what would normally be there for us. The warehouse industry right now, with everyone being home, the warehouse builders and the ones that do distribution of goods, and they're kind of taking a lot of our supply chain from us and putting us in a pinch. That is impacting us, and luckily we did get under the wire with the Innovation Center and the early childhood, so those steel orders got in ahead of that long lead. So we are going to be seeing that steel as we move forward into the next project, so we're taking that into account. Our next major project to bid is the St. Clair High School Gym Addition. We were hoping to get that project kicked off this fall, but due to the fact that the steel won't be available potentially until next July, we are looking at not disturbing that site until next spring. Is that what you wanted me to?
Yes, thank you.
So that project, specifically the St. Clair High School Gym Addition, or 612 building Gym Addition, it is on the, we call it on the street. It's out for bids right now. It went out today. The bids will be due on September 7th. So we'll have the bids, and then we'll be coming to the board for approval on that in October. Yeah, so that steel, the project here was impacted by something simple as epoxy paint. That was not available this summer. That had to do with the freezing conditions down in Texas. The chemical industry is still recovering from that. We've even seen things as simple as adhesive that comes in a pail. You're not able to get the adhesive because they can't make the pail. So right now, everything is kind of, you hear a delivery date, you call and confirm until you have it in your hands. You're not totally certain of what you're going to get. Some of the other projects that we have coming up, the tennis court lighting at the St. Clair campus, the 612 campus, we will be bidding that out here separately. That was already designed and already prepped for, so we're going to pull that ahead. That won't go with the phase 2 items, but that will be a separate project and expedited. And then the Marine City 612 program is in what we call design development. So there are stages that they're going through. They've kicked off design development. That will be completing here in the end of September, rolling into bid documents coming out early 2022. And then later on, I think Kirk Grzelka is going to cover the Marine City tennis courts. We did pull those ahead. That replacement is actually up for approval today. That will be a fall start with a spring completion of the tennis courts. And then another item that we do have on the agenda is to look at upgrades district-wide to the playground equipment. That's something that we'll be putting out here soon to get in the works. So that's kind of a snapshot of where we are right now. Does anyone have any other questions?
Guess we're all set. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thanks.
Okay, our next item is the Bond 2020 discussion and action item for this evening, bid package number 1, the MC tennis court replacement.
So moved.
Support.
No, we're having a presentation.
Oh, I thought you wanted,
I thought
it was an action item, so
Yeah.
I thought.
You don't even have to go up.
Sorry.
What you say.
Sorry, Kurt.
Let's do
That's
it.
okay. So, to bring to you for action tonight, the Marine City High School tennis court replacements. Due to the current condition of the Marine City High School tennis courts, it's being recommended that we demolish the old tennis courts and replace them with new courts. In conjunction with TMP Architects and All Constructions, bids were solicited for this work. Post-bid interview was conducted with the lowest bidders in each of the 3 categories. As a result of this interview process, we are making the following recommendation for contract awards, and that is to go with the lowest bidder in each of the 3 categories. The first category, electrical, recommendation is to go with Wade's Electrical Contracting in the amount of $1,000 for the demolition. For the tennis court paving, the recommendation is Cordis Brothers Trucking and Excavating in the amount of $437,300. And then for the fencing, recommendation is to go with American Fence in the amount of $126,916. Is there any questions?
Is this what we anticipated, that they were going to have to be demolished and totally redone?
Yep,
Okay,
yep,
so we're
abso-
on budget as far as that goes?
Yep, absolutely.
And the 400,000, that includes the demolition as well as rebuilding it, or?
Yeah, for the paving part of it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. With those 3 amounts, that's the complete cost for everything that
And they'll
needs to
have
be done.
lights too?
No, there's no lights for Marine City courts, no. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kurt. So the recommended action is that administration has recommended the Board of Education approves the following bids by Wade's Electrical Contracting in the amount of $1,000, Cordis Brothers Trucking and Excavating in the amount of $437,300, and American Fence in the amount of $126,916. Now a motion is needed.
So moved.
Support.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Okay, at this time, we're going to move into closed session. When we return, we'll have the following 4 action items: the ECAA contract, the ECAA contract, the appointment of the Gearing Elementary School principal, and then the Board of Education member appointment. Like Mrs. Cedar said earlier, this is to replace Mrs. Amy Murphy's position on the board, and I would also like to thank her for her dedicated service. I know that everything she did and all of her decision-making, she put students first, and she was very passionate. So she will be greatly missed, and so thank you, Mrs. Murphy. So at this time, I need a motion to go into closed session for the pursuant to Section 8C of the Open Meetings Act, that being for board discussion connected with negotiations of a collective bargaining agreement. I need a motion for that.
So moved. Support.
Okay, any comments or questions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, at this time, we move into closed session. Thanks again, everybody, for being here this evening. Item number 8. The first one is, per administration's recommendation, the Board of Education approves the contract agreement for the period of August 26, 2021 through August 25, 2023, between the Board of Education of the East China School District and the East China Education Association. Motion is needed.
So moved.
Support.
Any comments or questions?
I will be abstaining.
Okay, so we do still have quorum. Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And please let the record, Mr. Disrath abstain. Okay, that motion's carried. The next is, per administration's recommendation, the Board of Education approves the contract agreement for the period August 26, 2021 through August 25th, 2022, between the Board of Education and the East China School District and the East China Administrators Association. Motion is needed.
So moved.
Support.
Any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. The Board of Education approves the Board of Education member appointment of Lindsay Chap effective August 23rd, 2021 to fill the seat vacated by Amy Murphy. We'll need I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Support. Go ahead.
Any comments or questions? Okay, I will need a roll call vote for this. Dawn? Could you just call our names, please?
Vice President Biba,
Yes.
Trustee Mr. Dissarat,
Yes.
Secretary Mrs. Greenforth,
Yes.
Mrs. Cedar Treasurer,
Yes.
and President Mrs. Frank.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay, so that motion carries. Welcome, Lindsay. Okay, the last item is the Board of Education approves the hiring of Nicole Kirby as principal of Gearing Elementary School, effective with the 2021-22 school year. Motion is needed.
So moved. Support.
It's that time of night.
Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion's carried. Welcome.
Congratulations.
And with that, we're adjourned.